reigning monarch. The one constant in a country that changed so much over so many decades. From the post-war era of food rations to the digital age, the Queen moved with the times, and the people moved with her. As popular in the 50s as she was well over 50 years later. Through crises inside and outside her family, but the support and affection towards her rarely, if ever, wavered. Someone admired the longevity and sense of duty, with a beloved husband by her side, and as a widow queen. Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor was born at home of her mother's parents, 17 Bruton Street, in London's Mayfair.
Princess Elizabeth was to them as great.
At the time, her grandfather, King George V, was on the throne. Her father, the Duke of York, was the second son of King George and Queen Mary. When her grandfather died, her uncle Edward became king, but it was a reign that would last just 10 months. He abdicated to marry an American divorcee.
His irrevocable determination to renounce the throne.
In a year that saw 3 kings, Elizabeth's father assumed the throne. That she would one day become queen was now not in doubt. She met her future husband 2 years earlier, in 1934. They attended the wedding of Prince Philip's cousin, Princess Marina of Greece, and the Duke of Kent, who was an uncle of Princess Elizabeth. By the end of the decade, war had broken out and Philip was sent to sea. Elizabeth spent those war years in the Auxiliary Territorial Service.
The princess, who was on the eve of her 19th birthday when these pictures were taken, is at the wheel of a 1,500-weight truck in Cornwall.
A monarch of the future, but for now a mechanic, and one not afraid to muck in and get her hands dirty.
Today is Victory in Europe Day.
When the war ended, she chose to leave the palace and celebrate with the crowds on the streets of London. 2 years later, Princess Elizabeth married Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. A nation still battered and bruised by war, it was a wedding to lift the country's spirits. In 1949, Charles became the first of 4 children, soon followed by Anne. For a few years at least, they enjoyed relative normality out of the public spotlight. Then came the news that the Queen's father, King George VI, had passed away at the age of just 56. Elizabeth and Philip were in Kenya, only a few days into a 5-month tour of the Commonwealth. At 25 years old, a young woman who never imagined in early childhood that she would one day become Queen was now head of state. The coronation took place a year later in 1953, an event the Duke of Edinburgh insisted should be televised for the world to see. In the 60s, Andrew and Edward completed the family. The Queen is said to have worried about her children, like any mother, and on his silver wedding anniversary in 1972, she spoke lovingly about what her family meant to her.
Now that we have reached this milestone in our lives, we can see how immensely lucky we have been. Or perhaps fortunate might be a better word. We had the good fortune to grow up in happy and united families.
Though the Queen reduced marriage was a lasting success, the same could not be said for their children's. In 1992, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson separated. Princess Anne and Mark Phillips divorced. Then Charles and Diana separated. And a major fire engulfed a large part of Windsor Castle. Little wonder then that she didn't consider her 40th year as Queen to be the happiest of her reign.
1992 is not a year on which I shall look back with undiluted pleasure. It has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
The worst was sadly to come in 1997, when Princess Diana was killed in that Paris car crash. The outpouring of emotion from the public was like